Good afternoon and welcome to sunny Dingwall. The international break is over, the Betfred Cup has been parked for now and we're back to Scottish Premiership action on match day 11 of the league campaign. Jack Ross's high-flying Hibernian are the visitors to the Global Energy Stadium this afternoon. They took 9 points from a possible 9 in their 3 Betfred Cup group games despite missing a host of international players and injured first-team men. Ross County 5 out of a possible 6 points against Montrose and Arbroath, and they'll be desperate for 3 precious league points when they take on Hibs this afternoon. We've dragged our good friend Stephen Craigan back from Northern Ireland duty. How was the international break for you, Crags?
It was fine. Covered 3 Northern Ireland games. I think most importantly they're in the playoff final, so they've still got a chance of going to the Euro, so good. Yeah,
a successful week for you, and we've got a man who knows both Ross County and Hibernian pretty well. In fact, Stephen MacKay, your Brora Rangers team, took on Hibs in the opening game of the Betfred Cup. How are you, and how did you find that game?
I'm good, Jamie. Thanks for having me this afternoon. Yeah, it was a really interesting game for us. I don't think we could have asked for a more difficult first fixture. Yeah. So I think that our players did really well, performed well, did the club and themselves proud, so it was a good evening for us.
Yeah, you certainly gave a good account of yourselves down in Leith. Crags, I believe that the Craigan clan are currently enjoying a long weekend in Abbeymoor just now. It's October week for the schools. Give us your half-term reports on this Ross County campaign so far.
Well, I think they've done okay, but you know, like everything else, there's room for improvement. And I think the one place you look is at goals scored. They've only scored 7 goals in their 10 games. So there's, you know, Stuart's realised they need a little bit more creativity in the team. Bringing Jermaine Hilton in, Regan Charles-Cook has played the last 3 games, has looked good. You can't keep relying on a 34-year-old Michael Gardyne. Of course, he's going to have, you know, good moments in games, but other people have to push him. And I don't mean get him out of the team, but they have to try and take over his mantle off, you know, being that creative spark. Ross Stewart and Billy Mackay, Ollie Shaw, Michael O'Connor, they've got good centre forwards, but they have to have the supply. So if they can score more goals, there's no doubt they can maintain where they are in the league and hopefully keep climbing.
Stephen, would you say Ross County are stronger now coming out of the window with the players they've brought in and the players they've let go than they were at the start?
I think that's a fair point. I think, you know, as Craig just said there, that they've recruited really well during the window. They've brought in Charlie Larkin, who I'm looking forward to seeing. I think probably the best bit of business they actually did in the window was holding on to Ross Stewart. I think county fans and everyone connected with the club would have breathed a huge sigh of relief when the window was closed and Ross Stewart was still a Ross County player.
Yeah, I think we were probably sick of having to ask Stuart Kettlewell that question. Have there been bids? Yeah. How much interest is there? Is he going to be here come the end of the window? How important a player is he and how crucial is it to keep hold of him, because he's starting to find some really good form playing in that central position?
Yeah, he's a huge player for County, and is you know, a lot of the play goes through him. He's not a scorer of a lot of goals. He's not prolific, but he's a scorer of important goals. And I think a lot of the goals that he does score, you know, will give County 3 points and there's a draw. But he's definitely an important player for sure.
Well, Crags, it's been a baptism of fire for you since we brought you back from the international break. You've been a roving reporter today, and you've been catching up with the Ross County manager, Stuart Kettlewell.
Stuart, it's back to league action this afternoon, but let's take a look back at the 2 League Cup games over the past 10 days. What did you take from the games against Arbroath and Montrose?
I think the first thing for me was to make sure that we got enough game time into certain players. So we achieved that. We managed to get that. We didn't want too many injuries off the back of it. I think we've come away with Callum Morris being injured off the back of the Arbroath game, so that was a disappointment. However, from the 3-goal lead that we let slip against Montrose, I think we get ourselves back on target and where we want to be against Arbroath. So it's good to have had the couple of games and not been getting into total shutdown over that period of time, and it just keeps us ticking along nicely.
Hibs come this afternoon, a good side in good form. What are you expecting from them?
I think we know that they've got sort of 3, 4, maybe 5 key players that play every week for them. They've got a kind of potent strike force in Nesbitt and Deutsch, who've obviously hit the ground running this season, so we know we need to play against that. I think that Boyle's obviously had some real good plaudits as well for the work that he's been doing over a couple of seasons, so we need to make sure that we're vigilant of that. We have a game plan of how we'll try and negate it, but also we have to think that we're playing at home and we want to be purposeful in our play as well. So we've tried to strike that balance over the last couple of days, and I believe the players have a game plan that we can act out.
And your team selection, it looks a positive one?
Yeah, there's one or two wee tweaks and changes within the team. We've got some good offensive players in there, but as I say, it's a system that we think that we can start with, but can also be flexible. You know, without making a change, we can probably alter our system depending on how the game goes as well. And it's something I always like to have up my sleeve, rather than going to the bench early in the game and making changes. We can probably alter it from what we have.
Yeah. And a key point for Ross County fans: the transfer window's shut. Ross Stewart is still at the club. He scored 2 goals against Arbroath. You'll hope he can now kickstart a goal-scoring run to shoot County up the table.
Yeah, but I had a chat with him when the window did close. We've not spoke too much, believe it or not, during that period of time. And Ross has always been with us. There's never been a point where his head's kind of been somewhere else. So it was literally for me to say that this is where he is, and to go and enjoy his football, and let's see where it takes us, and let's go and see where it takes him in the future.
Good luck this afternoon, Stuart.
Thanks, Stephen.
Okay, Steph.
Perfect.
Well, Stuart Kettlewell sounding pretty confident, pretty positive about his team's chances and his team's lineup this afternoon. So let's take a look at that shape and how Ross County are going to take on Hibernian in this afternoon's game. There are 6 changes from the team that triumphed over Arbroath by 2-1 on Tuesday night. Starting in goal, Ross Laidlaw injured, so he misses out against his former side, and there's a debut for the Celtic loanee Ross Doohan. We reckon it's going to be a back 3 of Donaldson, Iakoviti, with Conor Randall just in front of them, and Keith Watson coming into the team. Charlie Lacken and Ian Vigurs, the captain, in the centre of midfield. Regan Charles-Cook on the left, Harry Payton and Michael Gardine back in the starting lineup, supporting the man we were just discussing, Ross Stewart. Crags, this is a formation we've seen before, and you've quite liked. You thought this is what they played against Rangers, and it worked for them in that game, didn't it?
Listen, Harry Payton can play off the right, or he can play in behind Michael Gardine and Ross Stewart, but I just felt at Ibrox it worked, it clicked, and it clicked because Ross Stewart is the centre forward, took the ball in, he was willing to run in behind. You know, the balls up to him weren't great all the time, but as that lone centre forward, you have to bring your team up the pitch. I just thought the energy of Michael Gardine and Harry Payton and Regan's Charles Cook had a really good game. You know, so he's really come into the manager's thought. I think the back 3 just gives him a little bit of protection against the Hibs front 2 of Dodge and Nisbet. So if Stewart can get all that right, I think he can also go to a back 4 if he needs to, if things aren't working. So he likes the flexibility, but certainly a system that gives, you know, his best players a chance of affecting the game.
Yeah, there are a lot of changes from midweek, maybe expected given the demands of the game, Stephen. Where do you think County can get at Hibs today with that lineup?
I think, you know, we've already touched on it already, but Ross Stewart plays a vital role in this formation. If he can hold the ball up and bring others into play, you know, you've got Harry Payton, you've got Charlie Lacken, who I believe is very athletic, you know, very, very comfortable in the ball. So if Ross Stewart can hold the ball in, bring these types of players into play, I think they could cause Hibs some problems.
Do we need to see a little bit more from Harry Payton? Stuart's spoken about this in the past. Technically, really talented player, very creative, very dynamic on the ball. But sometimes his end product doesn't quite match the build-up that he gives it.
Yeah, I think you know, Stuart Kettlewell will be looking for a level of consistency from all his players. You know, we've touched on it earlier that they're not scoring enough goals. So you know, Harry Payton needs to be more consistent, but so do all the Ross County players. That, you know, they're only averaging 0.5 goals a game, so that's not enough to consolidate your position in mid-table. So I think that's something that Stuart will be looking to address, and I think he's done that in the recruitment.
Yeah. Where do you see the goals coming from for Ross County with that formation, Craigs? Again, Ross Stewart's going to be important, but it's not all about one man.
No, it's not. Well, everybody looks towards the centre forward and says, well, you should be scoring more goals, but chances have to be created. And I think that's, you know, the little bit, that cutting edge has probably lacked. So players have to take responsibility. If it's Conor Randall on the right hand side, his delivery has to be right. Regan Charles-Cook has to be positive and take men on. We've been critical in the past of him not doing that, passing the buck and being simple. But the last 3 games, there's been glimpses of a real player in there. Michael Gardine has to get there as well. Harry Payton has to add numbers, has to add assists and goals to his game. So that has to come together. It's not just down to one player.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's just take a wee look at how the table stands heading into match day 11. Of course, I'm sure every football fan watching this is aware of the Old Firm derby result, a 2-0 win for Rangers at Celtic Park this lunchtime. That finished recently, and that has given Stephen Gerrard's men a 4-point lead at the top of the standings, albeit having played a game more than their city rivals. Hibs tucked in there in 3rd place, and Ross County down in 8th for the moment, and hoping to move up the table with a strong performance and a point or 3 this afternoon. When we come back after the break, we'll look back on the win over Arbroath and the penalty shootout triumph over Montrose, as well as taking a wee look at how Hibs are going to line up and how we think Ross County can make the most of that formation. Don't go away.
At the Virtual Learning Academy, we work with employers to develop the skills of their teams. The VLA is your route into a range of Scottish qualifications and apprenticeships. Not everyone has the same learning style, so why should all learning be the same? With online study, tutor support, a wide range of subjects and 24/7 access, the VLA offers a flexible approach to suit different learning styles. Visit vla.scot. Learn more, your way.
Do you want to reduce print costs with a first-class local service? We supply award-winning print, copy and scan equipment to customers like you across the Highlands, Islands, Moray and Grampian. At Highland Copiers, we'll help you reduce your print costs, and because we're big enough to cope but small enough to care, you can be sure of our fast, efficient, fully qualified and personal service both on-site or by remote login. Support your local team, support Highland Copiers and discover true local.
Well, it was a big night on Tuesday for Ross Stewart, the man we've been giving the big build-up to. He scored a double as Ross County came from behind to topple Arbroath in Betfred Cup Group D. Here's a look at how the action unfolded.
He might fancy this one himself. Hilson, oh what a goal from the Arbroath forwards! Dale Hilson lights up a cold Dingwall night. William MacKay opening up a little bit for County here. Randall's onside, it's a teasing ball in, and Ross Stewart hauls County level. Finally, some penetration. Finally, a killer touch. MacKay in behind. Overtanen lets it run, and Charles Cook, penalty kick County. Regan Charles Cook sent sprawling by Mikko Virtanen. This for his second goal of the night. This to give County the lead. It's Stewart, it's 2-1. And in the blink of an eye, in 3 second half minutes, Ross County and Ross Stewart have turned this Betfred Cup game on its head.
Well, it was a fairly entertaining and very important win for Ross County on Tuesday night. Craigs, you were watching on the stream on Tuesday. What did you make of that performance? And more importantly, what will Stuart Kettlewell have taken from those two League Cup games?
Well, I think first and foremost Tuesday night, the character of coming from behind. Ross Stewart getting his first goal from open play in the season. And the fact the group is in their own hands now. Win the next two games against Elgin and Stirling Albion, they win the group. In Betfred Cup games, when you play against lower opposition, the only way you make headlines is if you lose the game. They've won the game, 5 points from 6, they're in a good place.
Yeah, one team certainly in a good place as well are the visitors today, Hibernian. Lots and lots of changes, as you would expect, given how many players they were missing during that international break for this afternoon's game. So let's take a wee look at how the Hibs are lining up this afternoon. Offrey Marciano, first and foremost, back from Israel duty, and he takes his place in goal. We'll reckon it's going to be a 3-5-2 formation for Hibs, but of course Jack Ross does rotate between a back four and a back three. McGinn, Handler and Porteous all back from Scotland duty. Martin Boyle on the right, Kyle McGuinness on the left, we reckon, or Joe Newell, they might rotate during the game. McGuinness with his first league start. Alex Gogic back from international duty, and Kevin Nisbet, the league's top scorer, up there with Christian Doidge leading the attack. Well, gents, there's a lot of firepower in that Hibs team, a really high quality and really settled lineup. Stephen, where will they look to get at Ross County with the attacking threats they've got?
I think they'll look to use their wide players. There's so much pace they've got with McGuinness and with Boyle. I think they'll look to get the ball wide and try and get those two players in particular to attack County's back line. And then you've got a player in Nisbet who's firing all cylinders and can't stop scoring. So County will need to be at their best to keep him at bay. Yeah, 7 goals already for Kevin Nisbet this season. What a piece of business he's been.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've spoke previously. I love his journey. The fact that he left Partick Thistle, went to the third tier of Scottish football, scored 29 goals, I think, for Raith Rovers, scored 18 for Dunfermline last year. and he's just carried that on. I watched him as a 17 or 18-year-old, and he was mature beyond his years. His running off the ball, his hold-up play, his body strength, his goal-scoring ability, his awareness of the game. So I was surprised to see him go down to Raith Rovers, but it just shows the strength of character to get himself back up. He's now in a good place. He will eventually, I think, be sold for big money, and eventually will get a Scotland cap. So Jack Ross, you're right. Him along with Kyle McGuinness, good assets into the club. To stop Hibs, I think you have to stop him.
Yeah, we talk about the free-flowing attacking assets that Hibs have got under Arsenal, but defensively in years gone by, particularly last season, they looked a bit soft.
Yeah.
They looked a little bit weak through the middle. They looked they could be exploited defensively. They've improved that defensive record a lot. 10 goals in 10 league games they've shipped, although a lot of them from set pieces and penalties. Do you still think there are weak links there that County can exploit, or is it going to be pretty hard?
Well, it's going to be tough, there's no doubt about it. They're not sitting third in the table if they're not a good side. Alex Gogic is huge for me. He brings that bite and steal in midfield, an enforcer that they've missed previously. Ryan Porteous is getting better and maturing. Paul Hanlon goes under the radar and doesn't get the credit. And Paul McGinn has been a really astute signing. So they are a good back line, but County have to believe here in Dingwall they can get at them, and they have to run on their front players and their wide players to go and post problems.
Yeah, another perhaps Kevin Nisbet-esque signing has been the deadline day addition of Kyle McGuinness. What will he bring to the table, and what will he add to this Hibs array of midfielders?
I think we got a glimpse of him in our Betfred Cup game, and he looked very, very comfortable in the ball. He's got pace. He's very attack-minded as well. So again, Hibs are a very attack-minded side. So he just adds further to how they shape up. Yeah.
Well, time is ticking on. You can see behind me the players are making their way into the dressing rooms for the final preparations. It's time for us to make our way to the commentary gantry, and we'll join you there for full, live and exclusive coverage of Ross County versus Hibernian in a few minutes' time. See you then.